Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Sean here with Blue Ridge Silverhound, and today we are going to embark on probably the most insane pocket change market report this summer. And it says a lot because we have celebrated about 2.5 months of pocket change market report findings on eBay. And I have to say that this list is absolutely bonkers. So we're going to take a look at some of the coins that folks like you and I are finding out there in change or scouring through coin dealer inventory, cherry picking, things like that. Anywhere you can find these out there in the world today, we're going to cover them. Typically, we talk about coins that are not graded because the idea is if you're looking to make a fast buck or make even more and supplement your income, just sell it like it is. You don't have to grade it. Keep that submission money in your pocket. You're going to save yourself $30 a pop, and that's on the low end for mint errors. Die varieties can be pretty expensive as well. So we're going to take a look at roughly about the last 48 hours of market activity on eBay. Talk about some of the most relevant pieces. And again, this show is stupid. Here we are, August 13th, and we're talking about a big banging pocket change market report video. Before we go ahead and jump in, I want to let you guys know, quick shout out to channel sponsor Whatnot. They have been instrumental in getting my personal sales target in check. Now I could sell coins, currency, and all of the great numismatic items to you guys, my wonderful clients. And Whatnot is that platform. It's the biggest live social media auction platform today. I highly encourage you guys to go check it out. If you're not signed up yet, there's a QR code on screen. If you sign up under me, you get $15 off your very first purchase. But if you did not want to use the QR code, have no fear. Down below in the description box, we got the clickable links, and I'll also have that pinned in the comment section of this video. Get started today. It's a lot of fun, and it can be, quite frankly, a little bit addicting if you're in the hobby. Great way to add, pieces that maybe you've been looking for a while, and Whatnot is the place. All right. Let's go ahead and jump into this madness. 1975D, Lincoln Memorial Cent, struck off center by about 55% here. Great looking coin, and I'm going to say it. This is a date that just doesn't show up at all off center, and one that looks as good as this. Now, nice minty red, always favorable, but if you're looking for specific dates, and some are a little bit more tougher, or what we call key, quote unquote, a little bit more key out there, 75D is one that just doesn't pop up. Again, it's quite a scarce date for any off-center or broad strike. So this one right here, quick little, what do we call it? A snap sale, insta sale. This thing was made available as a buy it now, and it was scooped up for $43.78 in mere moments. So that's kind of like proof positive that some of the tougher dates, as long as they're priced kind of, in line to what the market is, will be picked up pretty quickly. Kind of like a big rule of thumb with eBay. If you price yours out on par or a little bit less, and you have it as a buy now, I don't see why you can't sell your item, within the first hour of when you post it. All right, so, I'm doubling down on woody, wood-grained, what we call improper alloy mix Lincoln Cents. These things are kind of incredible. And, once you kind of put the word out there that these particular coins are gaining some momentum in the collecting hobby due to their, relative affordability is what I'm going to say. It's like, you're not spending hundreds of dollars on these yet. It's still very affordable, but gone are the days where you could pick up a very attractive, maybe common date Lincoln Cent Woody for $1 or $2. Forget it. No longer around. This one right here, 1939. You can see actually some lamination on this one too. It's not the prettiest coin. When you look at the reverse, it's kind of got that ashy look to it, But that obverse is really pretty. This one selling for $10.64. It's not the only one we covered here today on the PCMR. We got, another Woody to talk about. It's really, really nice. And it would kind of help, I guess, exemplify where this market is heading. A lot of people are really interested in these coins. And that's all because, the Mint couldn't even get their alloy mixes straight back in the day. And because of that, it's really produced some visually stunning pieces. Next one that we have here. Yes, it is not out of the question to find a legit 1955 FS101 doubled die obverse. This one popped up here on eBay, and it's as true as you could possibly ever imagine. It is legit. I would say the only glaring issue with this coin is that it's been cleaned, all right, which will negatively and adversely affect the value of the coin. Now, typically anything like this one right here, if not for the cleaning, would be a net XF 40, 45 coin, which is still $1,800 to $2,000 in today's market. So, it's a pretty robust market for the 55 DDOs. They're not at all rare. I know, kind of like a hot take there, but they are expensive. All right, and this particular one, no doubt about it. Someone collecting a little bit of a discount on this one because of the cleaning and just the irregular color on the reverse, selling for $1,400 with 30 total bits. So this one had seen a fair amount of auction bidding activity over the last, I would say, 24 hours. It's always within those waning minutes when the sale ends where, the bidding becomes very hot and heavy. And I would imagine that's where this one was at. And by the way, it wasn't graded. Novel thought. Speaking of ungraded rarities, 1985 $10 bill. Yeah. If you haven't seen, just through the first couple coins, the insaneness heat level or index is out of sight. All right, so this one right here is not the most perfect looking example of this paper money error. You can see all sorts of staining and things like that. So crazy as it would seem, because the absence of the overprint, which is the serial numbers, the seals, and all that great stuff on this one, I would say 9 out of 10 folks would probably catch on that there is something definitely wrong with this note, okay? And to make matters even worse, when we flip it over, all that overprint was printed on the back by mistake. Again, another BEP screw up here. So this is really simple to diagnose, okay? The sheet, while it was in the stack, this one was upside down. And it was fed into the printing press and the corresponding overprint, which is the third printing process, by the way, of the whole production of paper money. This one was printed on the reverse, okay, by mistake. And, with that being said, the whole entire sheet was affected. But the real question is, how many of these escaped? I'm sure not all of them did. Because these things are easy to find through quality control processes. At least in theory, that's what we would think, because it's from like the 80s. But a pretty neat one here. And again, you're gonna get a little bit of a discount because of the condition notes on this one. This one, by the way, ended up selling for $256.18 off of 22 bids. Nicer AU plus examples going into crispy uncirculated tend to fall in that $400 to $600 range for the same paper money error that you see here. So kind of wild and crazy. Again, people are paying for these, and because of the condition, there is a little bit of a discount, but really, the desirability to add this into a personal collection is still at an all-time high. They're just not going to pay $400 to $600 for it. Next one that we have here, quite possibly one of my favorite Civil War tokens. Very well known, New York City, bro-ass pie baker. It's 1863. Back in the day, during the Civil War, regular issued coinage was being hoarded. Okay, and as kind of a interjection to that, the merchants, the storefronts, produce their own monetary kind of pieces, to hand out. And that's what Civil War tokens are, or store cards. So store cards, more appropriately, are monetary instruments during that time. So this one right here, of course, they put all their advertising, their address, company name, things like that. They'll also put some really nice, did artwork on there. If you worked on iron stoves, there's going to be something with an iron stove on the reverse there to go along with the rest of the advertising. So what is wrong with this one? Well, what is right with it? There's so much mid-air stuff here, keeping in mind that these were all privately produced. These were not produced by no Philadelphia Mint or New Orleans Mint or anything like that. We have just an absolutely terminal die-cracked obverse that, as you can see, and then on the reverse we have not only some die cracks, we also have a really, really crazy die clash as well. It's easy to see why that these are so popular. It's because of the outward appearance of the coin that really interests a lot of collectors. And by the way, there's a lot of crossover here between folks that collect U.S. type into Civil War stuff, because it was just such a historically important and event during our time. And again, there's a lot of historians / coin collectors that really do love these. $137.95. I was not at all budged by that price. They used to be a lot cheaper 5-6 years ago. You could have got one of these for $30-$40, but the secret's out. Broas Pie Baker with these multi-level error type stuff happening is a very hotly pursued coin. It's just a regular 90% silver half dollar, right? 1964 Kennedy. It's about as common as it gets, but if you do a little bit of eagle-eyed searching, you'll see that this one has a clip error right above the word Liberty there, E&R. And then corresponding to that, you have the Blakesley effect, the flattened edge of the opposite rim side to where that clip is. You can see it right there by the 9 and the date, the T in states, the second T. You can see that flattened edge, and that's due to the kind of the pivot or the tilt of the coin as it's being struck will produce that flattened rim area. So we know how much these are. With the price of silver, they're like $12-$13 today. This one sold for $30. So, and clips are one of the most common mint errors that you could come across. So make sure you're looking at even your scrappy 90% constitutional stuff will have things like this. I know at the end of the day, some people just won't care, but if you could take somehow $12 and turn it into $30, that's a great magic trick. You could take that $30 by yourself, some more silver to add to the stack. Guess what? It's going to be a lot more than just one Kennedy half dollar. A neat one here, 1995. We know this one. It's the FS 101 double to die obverse Lincoln Memorial. This one, and you guys know I don't talk about graded coins, but this one gets kind of sort of a free pass because it was graded in an old antiquated PCI holder. PCI has been out of business for a long time now. I did say decade plus, somewhere around there. But this is one of the most historically relevant varieties in Lincoln cents, because it was the one that back in 1995, people were finding left and right. Coin dealers were, putting out advertisements about how they were buying examples of the FS 101 double to die obverse. And not to mention that even this coin was featured on the news at that time. They had it on, I guess, Fox News, ABC, CBS, whatever the case is. It was talked about even in TV media, which makes it quite a coin with a lot of history to it. All right. Strong doubling, whether you can see it or not, on the word liberty and the motto "In God We Trust." They are the hot points. There's a lot of mid-state 65 level coins, which that's where this one kind of falls in there. Oh, by the way, there's a little close-up of liberty. You can see the notching and the doubling pretty succinctly. This one right here ended up selling for $62.85, which is kind of like the going rate for this particular grade of 95 DDO. There are lesser examples, with some circulation wear that typically hit about 20 to 25 bucks, but not too much less than that. So another great find out there. This is actually incredibly common, as many hundreds of thousands of this variety were produced, and the mint didn't care. They just let them loose. So there's a lot more of these to be found out there in circulation. One in which that we haven't talked about in a long time. My goodness, its time is due. 1964 Lincoln Memorial Cent with the doubled die reverse. This is the FS801 Cherry Picker's Guide variety. It's not the prettiest coin, but boy, man, is this thing rare. To the point where we just don't see them that much. The focus, not the best here on this one, but you can see the double tail of the S's. You can see the splits and notching on the United States of America, E pluribus unum. This thing is really quite strong. And I'm going to say that, part of its scarcity is that people just don't look at these a second time, which is crazy because it's a variety that's been around for a while. I would say at least the last 30 years. It's in the Cherry Picker's Guide and so much more. So this one right here ended up selling for 35 bucks. And that's understandable. Whereas brilliant red examples tend to fall in that $75 to $100 range. This one is not the prettiest. It's got some staining and carbon spots, and that's okay. If you have these and you're not a particular fan of the coin, just understand that these are money. And, if you like money, then you're going to have no problem selling these and cashing in at the same time. So we have a pair, believe it or not, the same state quarter, Louisiana Purchase, statehood quarter. A tale of two different kind of like wavelengths here of strike through, which is what this is. There was a lot of grease on that die, boys and girls, collectors of all ages. And when it has to strike through all of that oxide grease on the dies. Again, the grease was applied to originally do more good to the mint presses, because it's lubricating up the whole thing. But, the stuff gets everywhere, and it gets on the dies. And when they strike coins, you're not going to get all of the devices in relief on there. So this particular one is the most extreme out of the two we're going to talk about today at $82.90. That's wild. Here is our second example. You can see the difference in the level of strike through. While quite impressive, all right, this is probably more along the line of what you would come across out there in circulation today. It's strong enough that, it's not going to garner any secondary looks, because it could be something that people would claim like, oh yeah, it's just a lot of die wear, but it's not. So this one right here ended up selling for 20 bucks. A little bit more minor of a strike through, but nonetheless, a pretty good return here at $20. And, always be on the lookout for these. You'd be surprised a lot of people just kind of like willy-nilly passes it forward, spends it, puts it in a change jar and forgets about it. But this is real money here. $20 bill, take it all day. One of my favorites, I always look for these when I can. And they're out there too. The last state of the Buffalo Nickel, 1938 D over S, Over-mintmark, beauty. This is actually a very sexy mintmark variety coming from the Buffalo Nickel series. And it's so strong too. I mean, look at this graphic here provided by the seller. The image on the left without any kind of overlay. You can see the inner curl of the S right in the middle of that D right there. And then, of course, they did the overlay with that drawn in red S on the right side. $29.95. Okay, these are actually quite common to find, along with the RPMs, the D over Ds. Those are also out there and pretty easy to find. All right, so make sure you're looking for these. 30AD is quite a popular date and very affordable too, even in mid-state condition. All right, much like the 64 Kennedy we looked at, here's yet again another mint error to be on the lookout in your 90% silver. This is a 58D Franklin half dollar. It doesn't look like anything other than 90% silver half dollar. Look at the reverse though. You can see right on Liberty Bell some lamination peeling, right? Not completely peeled and detached, but it's on there. And you can see just kind of like the wide stripes and, you know, the flakiness of the whole thing. I mean, it's cool, you know. A lot of people have a hard time kind of figuring out what things like lamination looks like on silver coins. And it's really, ladies and gentlemen, no different than what you would find, say, on a Lincoln cent or a nickel. You know, it's just the metal flaking off because of the impurities in the alloy mix is what's causing all this. $29.60. You remember what I told you guys about the Kennedy half dollar? It's like a $12 coin by melt. I mean, this one here is selling for almost $30 like the previous coin. You know, is a pretty good flip. You're still going to profit like $15 off this after fees. Here's more lamination love. You know, and we talk about it because they're selling really well. We didn't talk a whole lot about laminations 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And now all of a sudden, as other different archetypes of mint errors are getting expensive, people are kind of yearning for a little bit more affordable arena to get into, laminations is it. 1953 Lincoln wheat cent on this one. You can see the lamination kind of like peeling back, you know. Pretty cool. You can see a little bit on the reverse as well, next to the right wheat stock. And it kind of like streaking its way through 1 cent. It's, you know, this planchet had a lot of issues. $24.80. Yeah, I bet you guys were not expecting that kind of sale. And that's, you know, ironically what this one sold for, because laminations were not the greatest sellers 5 years ago. You'd be hard pressed to sell them for about $1 or $2. And that's for a very major one. Nice close-up there. Again, when you add in these close-up photos into your listings, it does more to help incentivize the seller that they're getting something extraordinary. That's what we see here. It's like the more dramatic the close-up, the better. Yeah, okay. Well, I gotta say it. Another price spike here. All right, on the 2017A $2 Federal Reserve note, star notes, specifically the filled top right star, or an over-inked star is what it's referred to by general paper money error nomenclature. This thing we've seen sell a few months ago, $30, $40, $50. We had one last week that sold for what, $120, and we have another courtesy price spike here this week. This one ended up selling for $134.35. 29 bids. All right. I mean, is this getting your attention now? You know, in just a week, we've realized another, 10% bump in the valuation of these things. Now, I'm not going to say that every week's going to be a 10% bump, but we're seeing less of these being sold on eBay, whereas they used to be a little bit more readily available whenever you wanted one, you know. And we're just not seeing nearly the frequency of these things being listed on eBay. But I can tell you that we're still seeing these maybe a couple, 2 or 3, 4 notes per week. But it used to be that we were seeing these like 20, 30, 40 notes a week as recently as, you know, like 3 to 6 months ago. So things are changing. People are scooping these up. They're getting them graded because they will attribute them. It's quite a sight to see, and the movement is undeniable here. Dang, another awesome one. 1990 $10 bill with a corner fold and print over, as you can see. Man, this thing's crazy. You know, There's a little bit of simplicity to the whole thing, but when it's folded over and cut and then printed, and it leads to a lot more dramaticness to it, and that's what collectors love. And collectors pay for dramatic stuff, visual eye appeal stuff. Look at this reverse there. I mean, you couldn't even tell any better than the fold over there on the top left corner. Maybe this will help you guys out. Look at that. Nice little 3/4 view showing that the base second print on the front didn't even happen, and the overprint was printed on the flap. So where do we end up on this one? $405 on this foldover, 28 bits. And some would say that this level of foldover should and deserves to be in a graded holder, and I'm not disagreeing, but let this particular listing serve notice that it doesn't matter if it's a graded holder. It fully realized the market potential. $400 to $500 very easily on something like this. We can't forget about this one. 2021P, Washington crossing the Delaware quarter. A 1-year shot coin that I think is just going to age gracefully. Great error on these. That big old hamburger die chip that back in the day they called the crown die chip because it's sitting right on top of Washington's hat. Here's a nice little close-up here. At that, a piece of the die had broken off at one point, even obscuring a little bit of E pluribus-unum. And when it does that, it creates some pretty big oohs and ahs out in the community. So this one right here is selling for $60. Okay, a little bit of an uptick because we've seen these typically around a $50 bill level for a nice BU example. This one right here, someone coughed up the extra $10 to add it to their error collection. Just a really nice off-center, 1981 Philly, Jefferson nickel. It's off-center by about 25-30%. Very attractive coin here. This one ended up selling for $51 with 7 bids. So very attractive. Off-center and broad strikes are being collected by date. So again, another kind of way to collect mint errors is if you can find the same error or similar errors on every date and mint mark, and people really get off on that sort of thing. It's like their mission in life, and I don't blame them. It's like a really cool way to collect into the hobby. More silver to look out for, guys. 1922 basic piece dollar, minted into oblivion, of course, but they also have mint errors on them. First of all, you probably end up seeing that cool little clip planchet right above the B in Liberty right there. But also keep in mind that with a lot of these, there's VAM varieties. This one has a fair amount of die cracks on the obverse, going through the hair bun, the Y in Liberty, and then into the fields, and then across the neck. Pretty cool to see. It just adds a whole other element to this coin that maybe did not need anymore. So these currently available at dealers for like $28 to $30. Doesn't matter date or condition, that seems to be the floor on these. But this one right here ended up selling because of the rim clip for $61. So nice easy, fair profit on this one. And, for cherry picking sakes, you find this one and you pay $28, $30. That's a huge win, and we could have a lot more of those type of wins out there as well. So go ahead and do just that. So we talked about 1952 D Washington quarter that was struck on a dime stock planchet, which is just dime thickness. It's not a dime, but planchet per se, of that size. Here's the one that started it all, 1970 D. There were a number of these that were struck on dime thickness planchets by mistake, right? Because it's always the mint's mistake, and then we're here just to collect into it or pay the bills. So you could tell this one, there's a lot of weakness to the strike. You can see the top of Liberty, the date, the reverse is just crazy. This is not struck through grease. This is actually struck on dime thickness stock, all right, which is a lot thinner than traditional Washington quarter stock. Here's a little bit of a side edge view there, showing a much thinner quarter than normal. Not too bad, $33.66 with 9 bids. These things typically go for about 60 to 80 bucks, so this one a pretty good discount. Not saying that people are tired of it, because there's just not that many of them that hit the marketplace. Maybe a couple times a month we'll see these. But I think it was just a lot of people were asleep at the wheel when this one sold, and it's a great looking example, problem free. I didn't see any damage on it, so someone did definitely get a good deal here. Just for eye appeal here, 1983 Philly Washington quarter double struck. The secondary struck is off center by about 75%, featuring a uniface reverse as well. What else is there to say? I mean, when you have a double strike and it's of this nature, man, it's awesome. It's crazy. This one right here is selling for $120.19 with 12 bids. We also have this relatively newer $100 bill. This is a non-colorized first year out, 1996 series. It was either love or hate it. I'll be honest. There wasn't a whole lot of people that did like the hundreds. To them they just looked too cartoony. It kind of lacked a little bit of the classical engraving on those plates that people enjoyed on the older, smaller head notes. But this was a part of history. And they're still very well collected today. I think people have kind of gone beyond the stigma of these non-colorized big heads. That's what we call them. This one just looks like a plain Jane $100 bill with a little bit of writing on the right side there. So, it has to be something spectacular, right? And it is. Look at the reverse. A little bit of a misaligned print on that back, as you can see. You can even see the whole other edge there of the next note on the sheet. Crazy, man. It's so cool. It's on like a newer note too, which is a huge bonus. $259.60. 2.5 times face value is what this one mustered on eBay here in the last couple days. So again, yeah, look at both sides of the note. You just never know what you're going to find. You'd be surprised. One of our highlights of the week. Okay, another crazy one. 1964 D Washington quarter. Guess what? It's supposed to be silver. This one's not silver. It's actually nickel. Okay, so what's going on here? It's real simple. This quarter was struck on a nickel planchet. An actual nickel-sized planchet, which is why you have some cutoff on the devices, that not only on the obverse, but you can see on the reverse as well. Tops of the United States of America. So it is nickel. The coin is smaller and lighter. It's weight. It weighs out to what a nickel specs at. So this one right here ended up selling for $176. And guess what? A lot of people don't even pay attention to these because, especially the quarter struck on nickel planchets, because they're like the same color, kind of that silvery color. And no one's going to second guess the fact that the coin is slightly smaller, right? I'm willing to bet this was probably found in just 90% scrap silver. It just seems like that coin that is discovered out of there. So nice payday on this one. Look out for it. It's a huge mint mistake. We didn't forget about this one either. 2021 Philly Tuskegee Airmen, the last National Park quarter, and probably the most funnest to find with the what they call the burning building strike through. You can see the strike through on the that building on the reverse along in the fields. They call this a field-restricted strike-through, and it involves the feeder finger making contact with the face of the die, moving any corresponding grease. Because, again, everything's all greased up. You got to imagine that there's a pretty healthy coating of grease on the feeder finger, on the dies, on, the collar, and everything else. There's always grease everywhere. So, the word on the street is with these field restricted strike throughs is that every single one is going to have a different shape. It's almost like a fingerprint. They're all very unique. This one ended up selling for $38. It's just good to see another one We don't see a lot of these that much anymore. Nice little close-up of that cratered strike-through right on the building. Here's our other Woody. This one, an impressive sale. And we can help attribute that to the fact that it's double-sided. You actually have wood graining on both sides of the coin. It is, however, a very, very common date. 1937 is a date that exists in spades out there. But, man, really cool look to this. This one sold a nickel shy of $20. We are living in a world where woodies are selling for $20. It's just it's crazy. And let this serve notice. You guys cannot sleep on these. In time, they will get more desirable because they're still somewhat affordable. You know, people can't afford to spend $100,000 to $500,000 per coin to do a typeset, so they're doing things like this, and it's giving them so much more fulfillment, and it's really neat. And you have multiple people doing it, so there's a lot of expanse to the market for wood grainers. Final coin. It has to be a dime, right? Because, you know, dimes have been hitting kind of a new stride here lately with just mint errors and popularity, people paying more for them. 1963 Philly, so it's a 90% silver Roosevelt dime with 3 clips. 3 clips on this bad boy. Anything more than 2 is quite special. You don't see 3 clips on a coin quite that often, but we have one here. $30.99, 13 bids was the final sale price on that one there. Well, let's going to go ahead and wrap things up. Boy, exciting, banging PCMR. I'm happy to be able to talk about this, but as always, this is for educational use only, not financial advice. You know, you can read between the lines there if you want. Please collect and or grade your coins responsibly. I'm your host, Sean, with Blue Ridge Silverhound. It was a huge pleasure to talk about coins with you guys and opening up the doors for you with die varieties and mint errors. It's a lot of fun, and you can make lots of money as much as you want. It really depends on how much you put into it, finding, headhunting these things, which is a lot of fun. And it's always a huge victory when you do come across them. But that's going to go ahead and do it. The dogs have barked. They know it's time. I will see you guys later. Have fun collecting, and so long.